Who wanted this book? What was that sentence? I have a family member that's a gynecologist, so I messaged them. What the fuck am I reading? Hi friends, welcome. My name is Baron and this is my channel where I talk about some book stuff. I'm the Book Baron. Welcome in. So today we're kicking off another reading vlog. I just got done filming a couple of other videos. I still have my Christmas tree stuff up in the background, but I wanted to kick off my reading vlog today. What I decided to do is I want to read some of the lowest rated books on my TBR. Now, the reason I want to do this is because I have noticed that a lot of darker romance books that I love have kind of crappy ratings on Goodreads. They're a little bit more polarizing, and I think sometimes that might be scaring some people off. So I want to see, are these really that bad, or are they just very harshly judged? So I don't want to just pick like just the lowest 3 rated books. But I will do a screen share of my Goodreads account in a little bit here and kind of talk you through which ones I think I'm going to pick, and then we'll take things from there. So I'm going to switch over to the screen record and let you know what I'm thinking. So I'm going to skip past the books that haven't been released yet, which is most of these, although I don't know why this one's here. That's weird. So the lowest rated one that I know for sure is out is this 8 Days for Salvation by Yolanda Olson. This is a 2.9. I think this might be a good candidate. This has been a book that I've actually seen quite a bit on people's Instagram wrap for 2023. So this has popped up and was something that I became interested in because people had been recommending it. Oh, this is a little bit short. So if it's really bad, at least it won't last long. But yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a book, at least on my watch read list, that is as low as a 2. Like, I always feel like a low rating, it starts in like the mid 3 somethings, 3.4, 3.5. I don't think I've ever seen one this low. I'm really curious. Maybe it's the horror component of it. So I think that'll be one of the books. Bloodmate, I think recently released. I think that was a this year release, and I don't want my first experience with Kitty Thomas to be this book. I want to read Comfort Food first, so I'm going to skip past that one. I don't know much of Leonie Riley, and I'm not really in the mood for a monster romance, so I think that's another one I'm going to skip. Oh, here's an interesting one. Hitched by Lauren Beale. So I've actually included Lauren Beale in a previous reading vlog. I actually really tend to like her stuff. She does write quite dark, but I always feel like her darkness is done with the intention of messing with the mental space of our protagonist. I think I'm kind of curious about whether or not this is one that maybe gained some popularity, because this is quite a few ratings for a darker romance. Maybe it gained some popularity and just was kind of finding a more general audience rather than the target audience. And I know I generally like Lauren Beale, so I'm curious, is it worth the 3.6 rating? So I think that'll be one of the other books. What is this one? Captive in the Underworld. I missed up here. Oh, mythology. Okay, I am not in the mood for Greek mythology and retellings. I've been having kind of a missed time with all of that. All right, we also have His by Aubrey Dark, tied up in a bed next to a serial killer. Woof, that sounds rough. This one's also on the shorter side, though. I don't want to have too many short books. Ooh, and this is quite a bit older. Maybe not this one. Oh, actually, this is one that I just recently added. Captive of the Wolves by Eva Chase. Okay, this is one that I got for Stuff Your Kindle Day. I think I'm gonna go with this one because this I think will offer some good variety. It is a little bit longer than the other ones. It's also fantasy and reverse harem with some shapeshifters. I think this is going to offer us some good variety here. So it's not all just like the darkest and most unhinged things I've ever read. I love this cover too. Those are our books. I think what I'm going to do is actually start in reverse order. So I think I'm going to start with this book. I think we have our books. I think those are the 3 that I'm going to go with. I'm going to start with Captive of Wolves first by Eva Chase. I'm going to go off. I'm going to read a little something, something, and let you know a little bit about what this book is about. See you in a bit. Hi, I'm back, and I can actually tell you what this book's about now. So, we are in Magic-y land. Yes, indeed. And we've got our girl, Talia, and she has been taken captive by these, like, weird wolfish type people. They come every once in a while and draw her blood. They treat her very cruelly, and they can't go too far with it because they do need her for something. It seems to be her blood. She ends up trying to escape, but she end up running into some folks that have broken into the facility or the place that she's in. They end up taking her captive from the original captors because they went in looking for some serum and they thought that they were going to find like a recipe or a potion or some bottles or something. And they realize after they give her a good whiff that it's actually her. She somehow has to do with the serum. It seems like her blood does something for them. It's not totally clear what, but we've seen that it seems to affect their like wolf form in some way because these are Fae shifters. We are in a Fae realm. But our girl is very much human, so she didn't even realize that she was in a Fae location, country, locale, something like that. We're still getting a lay of the land, and they're treating our girl a lot better, which is nice. But she's still sort of in a captive situation, and like they're a little disgruntled because they were just looking for a recipe. They didn't want a whole person, let alone a human person. Trying to figure out like what do they do? Do they turn her over to the Arch Lord and kind of like look like heroes, or are they going to be considered thieves? She's got a little bit more freedom, at least with these guys, compared to her previous captors. So that's the basic premise of this. How I'm feeling so far is I really feel like the setup is strong. I am a little bit bored. I think because I don't know what's going on right now or the direction that we're headed, other than like we're probably gonna bone down with all these dudes at some point. I'm just a little bit lost as to what to think right now. It just might be where I've paused. A lot of the dudes are falling into the typical like reverse harem. We've got like our daddy character that's got a bunch of integrity, and we've got Mr. Broody, and we've got another Mr. Broody, and then we've got our simp. I do have a hard time keeping the guys in Why Choose books separate. So I am still struggling with that, but that's not the book's fault. That's just like a me thing. Like I'm just not smart when it comes to telling apart men, I guess. There have been a couple of like funny moments. One of them I don't think was intended to be funny, but like I've read this in a couple of books and I just need to know what you'll interpret this as. When someone says that their gut turns watery out of fear, what does that mean? Is it diarrhea? That's how I interpret it, and I'm just kind of curious what you guys think, because I've read it a couple times and I'm like, is that what I'm supposed to be thinking about? Because that's kind of gross. So far, so fine. I'm probably going to update you tomorrow because I need to work out so badly. I'm in the post-holiday blues for sure. So I need to boost my mood with some exercise, I think, here. And then after that, I won't want to appear on camera because I will be, well, I mean, I am in snuggly clothes now, but I get even snugglier. I don't like how I phrase that. I'm gonna go. All right, talk to you tomorrow. Hi, it's me. I'm back. This horrible shot and this beautiful angle and frizzy hair all brought to you by a very sleepy. I was reading a little bit more before bed. I need you to share my pain right now. I had to pause mid-scene. Like I'm in the middle of reading the scene actively currently right now, and I was gasping, gagging, throwing up, and not in a fun way. Okay, let's set the scene. So there has been some indication that everyone in this house finds each other attractive. The four guys find her hot. They're like, those hips do be swaying. And she has gawked at them when they're working out, or another one, like she had some like fairy absinthe kind of a thing. And she was like, you know what? I do kind of want to nuzzle this man's neck. Yeah, I mean, Faye equals hot person. So like obviously there's a little bit of something happening here. But that's kind of been the extent of the chemistry. It's just everyone's like, hmm? There hasn't been really a lot of build up to this scene. This scene felt like it came out of nowhere as a result. Our girl has to take baths in basically like it sounds like it's like a hot tub or like a jetted tub of some kind, because she has like an injury that prevents her from being able to get over the lip of an actual tub. This one's like down on the ground. Anyway, that's detail that you didn't need, but I'm setting the scene for you. So she's down there with one of the guys, Simp Boy. His name is August. They had made some comments earlier about how like some of them are half human and that's like a common way to reproduce. He was like, oh, you don't have to worry about that. Like, you're so good. She's like, actually, I fully wasn't, but cool, thank you so much. And then he was like, you probably want to like be able to take care of that kind of thing yourself, right? Like, and I can't believe I'm gonna put this on the internet. Oh, the things I choose to do with my life. So we're having this conversation. He's like, yeah, I've heard. I don't know how. But he's like, yeah, you should just like sidle up and put your nether yaya up against one of the jets. I bet that would help. And I was like, all right, that's a little much, but like, I get it. You're helping her out. And then she does while he's still in the hot tub. And then she's like, you know what? This is doing a lot of things. This is pretty spicy over here, but it's not quite enough. And he is shouting from the other side of the hot tub instructions on how to further get herself off. And then when I read that, I paused the book and threw it down on the sofa. There was no lead up to this. How did we get here? How did we get here? This came out of nowhere. I'm scared to like pick the book back up because I'm so uncomfortable. I'm getting secondhand embarrassment right now from this scene. Other than that, I am a touch bored. It's not bad. I'm just like, there's not a lot happening. She's sort of planning to escape and trying to get that figured out, but there's not enough of like a plan really come together where I feel like there's like action or like something kind of moving a plot forward. And then Kellen, he's kind of a big bully and nobody really wants him there. And I just don't really understand, one, why he's there. I mean, maybe we find out in a little bit, but two, he's like bullying her aggressively. And I'm like, what did she do to you? Like, she's a captive. She doesn't want to be here either. Just don't really understand his motivations like at all at this point. So I'm just kind of like, why? That's where I'm at the moment. Slightly bored and horrifically embarrassed. Maybe this was a bad choice to do this video. Once again, ignore the frizzy hair. So I was gonna pop on here and be like, you know what? I just talked to you guys like way too soon. There's actually some plot that's happening now. No. So remember how I was telling you she had her solo scene in the bathtub? And I was like, cringe. She just did it again. But with Boss Daddy, Silas. She somehow got into his bed, and then when he got up to go to the bathroom, she just like had a solo DJ session. Man, these scenes are making me cringe so hard. They're so embarrassing. Oh, they're so awkward. I need Jesus after this. Send help. All right, I just wanted to give you a very quick update. So it's the next day, obviously. I am now 70 for, ma'am, I'm now 70% into the book, and we are finally getting some plot. I think there's some things maybe coming back with her original captors, but I think this book has a massive pacing issue. I think maybe that's why it's rated so low. But I will get this finished up, give you my final thoughts, but that's kind of where everything's at the moment. See you soon. Hi. So, I am just getting ready to go work out. So I wanted to just pop in here and say real quick, kind of what I'm feeling and thinking about the Wolf book by Eva Chase. I just finished it earlier today and I was kind of like pondering, like, what about this doesn't really work? Because I actually don't think it's like particularly bad. I think it's just aggressively mid. When I looked at the ratings, it was pretty evenly distributed between 3 and 4-star ratings. There aren't a lot of 2 and 1-star ratings, and there's not a lot of 5-star ratings. So I think that makes sense why it's kind of averaging out to be like a 3.6. It's like a good concept. It's a good idea, but nothing really comes about from it. We don't really have well-developed characters. They are pretty stereotypical or archetypal, which is kind of fine if you have a lot of plot. Like sometimes I don't notice that kind of thing, but there wasn't a lot of plot. This felt like a really long and drawn out unnecessary prologue, and that's why it's got a low rating. The beginning portion, I think, could have set up something really cool, and maybe they get to that in the later books because this is the first book in a series. But in this first book, I think it just made it feel like a big long prologue because we didn't really like find out any real information. We didn't find out or even get steps towards like why maybe she has this special blood that is like helping them with their curse situation. And then a lot of the characters, especially towards the end when we had more action happening, and I kind of thought maybe the plot would pick up, it became really clear that these characters were archetypes because like scene to scene, they would switch how they were feeling about something. So they'd be like, I'm gonna let you go. And then they'd let her go. And then they'd come chasing after her. And it was like a split second later. Or they'd be like, we don't want your blood. And she's like, that's fine. I'll protect myself. And then like they're in the throes of the curse. And she's like, I'm gonna give them my blood. There's just like not a lot of follow through with anything. There's not a lot of follow through with the actions. And so then you have to love the characters, right? You have to enjoy who they are. And all the dudes kind of sounded the same. So I didn't really care. I didn't really understand why everyone liked each other other than they happened to be in a house together. So I think that this is just one of those that it's like, it's aggressively mid because of my New Year's resolution. to DNF mid-books. I would have DNF'd this if I was not doing it for a vlog. I think this is a good baseline for us because this is a fantasy and the other two are dark romances. And one of them's from like one of my favorite authors. So I think this is a good test of like, okay, that's what 3.6 means. Aggressively mid. These ones are lower rated. So are they actually worse or do people just not like the dark content? Let's go find out. I'm gonna read Hitched next because I am not brave enough to do Yolanda yet. I'm a little scared of that one because a 2.9 is a pretty bad rating, but we'll get to her at the end. I'm gonna get started on Hitched. I will let you know what it's about. I think from what I remember, because I've wanted to read this series regardless of doing this video, is that it involves like hitchhiking and people picking them up maybe? I don't know. I think maybe this one has like a prisoner or something. Maybe I'm talking out my ass. We'll find out. All right, I'll tell you a little bit about it in a bit. What was that sentence? I'll tell you a little bit about it in a bit. Nailed it. See you soon. Hi folks. So it's been a second since I updated you because my Monday just Mondayed so hard. Oh, I didn't get a chance to update you before this. And I was like, you know, I should probably do that before I go work out. So I was correct. Hitch is about the escaped convict or the escaped prisoner, I guess it would be, hitchhiking on the side of the road. His name is Lex, and he is a documented sociopath. So he is trying to get away from the prison right now, and he ends up carjacking a gal that is in like sort of a domestic type of situation. They're kind of on the run together. Well, I mean, she's his hostage, so is she really on the run with him? The main thing with this is moving at a breakneck speed. Like even for the amount of pages that we're talking about, this is reading almost like closer to like a 100-page novella. Like it's moving very quickly. It's relationship development with action. There's just a lot going on kind of constantly, and with the interactions that they're having, things escalate very quickly. That's made it really easy to read as a result. I'm only like 15% in, but I already feel like a lot has happened. I think that kind of makes sense a little bit, I guess, just with him being desperate to get away from the prison. There are some things that with his personality I don't quite make sense. With him being a sociopath, like the first like schmexy like kind of interactions, he's more so doing stuff to her, which I was like, if you're a sociopath, wouldn't you just be after what you want? Unless he's just trying to make her uncomfortable. I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting. I wasn't really sure how to read that because I was like, I don't know what I'm kind of picturing as a sociopath. I don't know if that fits with this guy's character, but I'm going to continue reading. I will update you at like the halfway mark. All right. Sound like a plan? I hope it does because I am so tired. I have a bunch of projects where the deadlines are all colliding at the same time right now. And it's rough out here. It's real rough. I basically didn't even take a lunch today. I just worked straight through. So I am tired and I deserve this workout. I need to move my body. My back hurts so bad from being like a gremlin over the computer for the whole day. All right, I'm gonna go do that. And I will see you when I've gotten to the 50% mark. See you soon. Hello. So it's the next day. I'm just taking a little bit of a coffee break. I had a very early meeting and then I have some tasks that I need to mentally prepare for. So I'm just taking a little bit of a breather. I thought I'd update you guys very, very quickly. So I'm about 60% in now. I read a good chunk last night. I'm alternating between this book and another book. So it's actually reading a little bit slower than I think I would have read it if I was just dedicating all my time to it, but I digress. It's interesting because the first half almost felt like it could have been its own book. There was like a kind of like main action, conflict, de-escalation, everything within that first 50%. So it kind of makes sense why it was feeling like it was moving at such a sprinting pace. They're professing their love or their trust in one another much earlier on than I really felt them because we were moving so quickly. Something similar happened in Gothicana where there's sort of this like declaration earlier on and then much, much later on, I was like, oh, now I get it because I kind of saw what they were talking about and referencing finally in action. And that happened here too. There was like a scene around the 50-60% mark where I was like, oh, now I get it. I almost feel like sometimes authors kind of do this like yada yada thing where they're so excited about the trope and they're just like, everyone loves this, right? Everyone loves this age gap. Everyone loves, I guess in this case, it's hitchhiking prisoners, a dark, broody man that takes us captive. I don't know. They're just like, oh yeah, we all agree on that. So I'm just going to not take the time to kind of build that up. I'm just gonna be like, oh yeah, that's our baseline. Cool, cool. They're in love. And just use that as the main mechanism for the basis of the romance. I don't feel it when authors kind of skip those integral steps. And then with Gothkana and with this one, sorry, I keep banging my mug. What happened with Gothkana and with this one is that I finally felt it much later on in the book, but I did get there eventually. It just took me a while to see it in action and not just have the author be like, yeah, no, they love each other, and have that kind of like instant connection, especially when they're so different from one another. One thing I will say is there is a scene that included one of my spice yucks, and everyone has their preferences, so this is like hyper specific, but I cannot handle when they're doing stuff with the rear exit, shall we say, and we're using spit and a prayer and nothing else. You know what I'm saying? It's just like a full body like, huh, for me. That's included in here, and I didn't like it, but outside of that, I'm enjoying things. I'm really curious now where things are gonna go though, because we kind of had this like rise and fall in action already. I'm like, okay, obviously we want them together and we want them safe, and he's an escaped convict. So we have like a pretty big glaring issue that we have to overcome. How are we going to get out of this? So I'm excited to see where this goes, and I will update you at the end of this and I'll let you know what I'm thinking. Right now, the way this is feeling is kind of like 3.5, like 4-star-ish territory for me. So I will see you soon. Hi, so ignore the horrible backlighting, but I just wanted to update you quick while I am finishing making my dinner. I end up finishing Hitched after work. I realize I think I've been calling it Hitch, but you guys know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I think this would have been an absolutely killer, like 100-ish page novella. I think it really would have been fantastic because that felt like it had like a really solid plot. I felt like I knew where things were kind of going, and I think it really felt the most developed in that portion. The last 40%, I really thought maybe we were going to get more relationship development and a little bit of them on the run and then kind of settling into their lives. But I just didn't really feel like I got the relationship development that I was wanting. And a lot of what happened was kind of like half-baked plans and like things that kind of came about as conveniences. I also just got a little put off by the amount of violence or the way the violence was kind of done in this book. I'm not a squeamish person by any means, but I do have a hard time when I don't understand where the person that is doing the violence is at. If I can't sympathize, empathize, or understand their motivations, I have a really hard time being on board with them being violent against someone who is, for all intents and purposes, like innocent. They're just a bystander that happens to be in that person's life. Because at that point, it just doesn't feel like the person is like morally gray. Like it really just feels like this person that I don't really want to root for. That kind of got to me for some reason, and I think it was just kind of the way it was done. And there is quite a bit of violence against random bystanders in this. So some of them are, you know, framed as a little bit more evil than others, and some of them really are just kind of like people that happen to enter their lives. In the second half, we spend a good chunk of time kind of like almost what I would consider in our kind of like epilogue phase, kind of settling into their lives. And we spent a lot of time there that I didn't think was necessary. And I felt like we should have spent more time on some other things like the relationship development and maybe making out a plan a little bit better about how this is all going to work out. And the reason I say all this is because the epilogue really showed me that Lauren understood the psychological mechanisms behind the characters. She is aware of what sociopathy means in terms of like bonding. Like she had put in some work into that. And I don't know that I necessarily bought how that laid out in that, especially in that second half. I was thinking that it was going to be closer to 4 stars, but I didn't quite get that relationship development that I was expecting. So I think I'm leaning closer to 3.5, somewhere in there. So that's where I'm landing with this one. Again, it's not a bad book. It's just kind of like, it's pretty mediocre. So this is making me really nervous because our last book is the lowest rated. It has a 2.9 and it's 8 Days of Salvation by Yolanda Olson. I am very nervous about this one, but I don't know what it's about at all. I'm assuming there's some captive elements, and I've heard that this leans a little bit more into the horror side. So I guess we will find out what this is all about. I will let you know a little bit about what it's about once I'm kind of a little bit into it. And then I'll probably update you at the end just because this is so short. I don't want to accidentally spoil too much unless I feel like there's really something that I need to like grab the camera for. So that's the plan. I will see you soon. Surprise, I have makeup on. I know, sometimes I can put myself together. So I just got done filming a video and I didn't get a chance to read last night because when I updated you, it was really late and I basically ate dinner and went to bed. So I also had an early morning meeting yet again, so I wasn't able to read this morning. I was just going to do a little bit of reading on my lunch break here and I was like, let's just go peek back at the Goodreads profile for this book. It has a 2.89, so it's even lower than I remember it being. And the hero has taken the heroine's eyes. So if I end up DNFing this, there were signs. I'm so scared. I think I'm going to try and read this during the daylight because I don't know if I can handle something that's really, really dark at night, but we'll see. I'll keep you updated. Maybe I'll be grabbing the camera more than I thought I would. Oh no, wish me luck. Hi, so we're back in my bathroom. I was just going to hit the shower because I was reading while I was working out, but I want to give you an update very quickly. I'm about 30% in right now, and so far so good. She doesn't have her eyes missing. Thank heavens.
Oh, I was so young and naive at the beginning of this. That'll change.
But she does have like a cloth tied around her eyes. And so she isn't tainted by the evil that's kind of going on around her because he has captured other women as well. So it has a very Criminal Minds-esque feel when we're opening up. He is slowly kind of like kicking off what he's calling his collection of women. And they have never survived past 8 days. And basically, they have 8 days for salvation. So he has picked these women because they are in some way failing. They are somehow like sinners. And he is trying to bring them around to the Lord and unaliving them. So far, there's been some kind of like torture-ish type things, but it's nothing too wild. You can just tell that she's like trying to do things to keep him calm because anytime anything goes wrong, if you ask a question, if you don't do exactly what he says, if you don't respond the right way, he flies off the handle and then you end up in either like some sort of like medieval torture device or end up like being harmed in some regard. Right now, she is the last girl standing. She's kind of his favorite, and so he is really taking his time with her. That's where we're at so far. I did love though that I posted on my stories over on Instagram that I was reading this book, and gotta love books with Lynette.
Well, you would think I could get her Instagram handle right, but I'm going to repeatedly call Book Vibes with Lynette Books with Lynette. So this is my blanket statement that I completely got it incorrect. I will link her Instagram profile in the description box so that you all can easily find her, but it's Book Vibes with Lynette. I'm so sorry.
She was also the person that when I posted about reading R.I.P. by Charity B, she's like, girl, I got you. Message me while you're reading. She already messaged me and she's like, girl, once again, I've got you. I was messaging her about this. She's like, let me know when you get to the end because that's wild. Also, there's a couple things that I had to Google and see if they were real. And so now I'm like, color me intrigued. So I'm going to continue reading. It's moving very quickly. It's only about 100 pages. So I should be able to finish this up. I don't know if I'll be able to finish it tonight. But for sure by tomorrow, I'll be able to wrap this baby up. So far, I think this is fine. Like it's nothing too wild.
Well, that's about to change real quick.
But definitely a horror. Definitely a horror book, not dark romance so far. So see you in a bit. All right, forgive the appearance. It's nighttime and I am all cozy in my PJs. I just showered and I was reading a little bit more. So how do I say this? So I know I said I wasn't going to update you terribly much, but here's the thing. Something really weird happened. And God bless her, Books with Lynette, she knew that I was going to have some questions. She messaged me that, hey, there's a scene that I actually had to like Google some stuff with. And I was like, Google some stuff? Well, like what? And I was like, maybe it's like one of the contraptions he's got or something. Like, is that what we're talking about? And I just got to that scene. This is spoilers if you want to read this, but also it's so bizarre that I need to almost like forewarn you. This scene made me question whether Yolanda Olson was like a pen name for a man. Because there is sort of like a torture-ish, spicy-ish scene, I guess. I don't know how to categorize it because it's horror. It's a little weird. But basically, she was like, I didn't know you could go up inside the cleat, we'll call it, to not upset YouTube. And I was like, I mean, you didn't know that because I don't think you can. And I've told you all in the past, I have a family member that's a gynecologist. So I messaged them this late at night. They're getting ready for bed. And I was like, hey, I have a question for you. They responded in a very medical professional tone. So for that, I am forever grateful and asked no follow-up questions, which just made me love them so much. But basically, they were like, I don't think that that's possible. Realistically, what they're probably talking about is the urethra, which is right behind that area. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. They were like, I'm gonna go to bed. Good night. So I have no shame. And now I have the answers for you. So if you ever get to that scene, now you know. So fair warning, I will probably be picking up the camera a little bit more than I even thought I would because Lynette also warned me that there's like a scene. She's like, it's the one everyone talks about. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but I guess I'll be talking to you all about it. I'm going to be done reading this book for tonight, just because I'm still processing what happened in that scene, and I want to read a different book. So I'm going to finish this up tomorrow, and I will update you all on the happenings. See you soon. I really hope the scene that I just got to was the one that Lynette was talking about. Spoilers if you want to read this, but this scene is so gross. I'm at like roughly the 50% mark. And he's feeding her food and was kind of getting like turned on by it. And she's like, that's weird. And also, this bacon kind of tastes a little funky. What do you think it was? Because it wasn't pork. Oh, I'm so grossed out right now. Ew. Oh my God. Once again, this is gonna be spoilers, but he just took her eye. He just stuck his thing in her eye socket. Oh my God. What the fuck am I reading? What is happening right now? I thought the bacon was gonna be the worst part. I was so wrong. I was so wrong. What? Why? Why? For who? Who wanted this book? I guess I'm gonna continue. Thinking more logistically, now that I've gotten over the shock. Does this mean he has a teeny peeny? Eye sockets I don't think are that deep. I don't know, something to ponder. All right, so I did in fact finish. I had to put my AirPods in for like the last like 50% because I was like, this is kind of like creeping me out and grossing me out. So to keep myself grounded, I was just listening to a little something. I don't know what to make of this. It's not horribly written, but I don't know who this is for. I don't know why this was written. Even with the twist that happens at the end, I was like, that doesn't really explain things away, and it doesn't make me understand the heroine and why she's like kind of into this dude that fed her people bacon. And that wasn't even the worst of it. It got worse. Do I understand why this is got such a low rating? Sure. I think this is also like slightly mismarketed. This is not a dark romance. This is horror, straight up. All right, I'm gonna process and then I'm gonna film a wrap up probably tomorrow because it's dark out right now and just kind of like, what did we learn from this? I will talk to you all tomorrow. Hopefully I don't have nightmares about people bacon. Oh my God. Okay. See you all soon. Hello. So I am losing daylight. So I'm going to try and wrap this video up as quickly as possible while we still have some sunlight. I'm in snuggly clothes because it is freezing here in Seattle. I feel like everywhere has been really cold this week in particular. Everywhere's getting snowstorms when I'm filming this. But I did want to talk to you all about my thoughts about 8 Days for Salvation. And I feel kind of mixed because what I'm kind of surmising and what I'm thinking the intention of the book was to explore abuse and how victims often feel that they have either brought it on themselves or are so altered by the process of it that they become convinced somehow that they are deserving of it. I'm trying to say things without being too spoilery for this section, but that's kind of what I'm thinking the intention was. And I think it's taken to the extreme to make it maybe more exaggerated, more obvious, more clear to draw a reaction out of the reader. That said, I don't think I needed to read about people bacon in order to get that point across. there's definitely some elements that were taken to the extreme, and I think that is definitely what is contributing to the low rating. So this section is going to be fully spoilers. I'm talking about the end of the book. I'm going to be talking about the twist. If you want to read this book or novella, please skip ahead. I'll put a spoiler label up here, but I feel like it's important to talk about because I don't foresee a lot of people wanting to read this. This is your warning. But we knew in the beginning that our girl had a drug abuse problem and was with someone that we kind of knew that maybe he was a little bit questionable, but we know for sure by the end that he is actually abusive. So she had actually spoken with the man that ended up taking her captive before this happened and had expressed that she was a little bit disenchanted with her life. She wasn't enjoying the lifestyle that she was living. She didn't want to be a drug user anymore. And he basically said, turn control over to me. I will help get you clean. So in her mind, she then felt like all of this abuse that she had experienced was her own fault, or that it was somehow worth it because her life before it was so bad with the drug use. And he did do the thing that he said he was going to do. I don't think we needed to remove an eye or have people bacon. I cannot emphasize that enough. There's clearly a lot of brainwashing that has occurred here. So it could potentially be an interesting exploration. I just don't know, for me personally, that the ends justified the means. I think what does a really good exploration of this and is a lot less gross, but messed with my head even more, was Take Me With You by Nina G. Jones. I think it's a way better job because by the end, it even messed with my mind. It wasn't me trying to interpret or understand maybe where a character was coming from. Like, I fully was in it with the character. Do with this information what you will. But I think what we have learned here is that the ratings, I understand why they are the way they are. However, I do think that in the case of Hitched and Captive of Wolves, I think in those cases, there's definitely an audience for these books, and maybe it just hasn't found the right audience. Captive of Wolves, I can see people that like Broken Bonds kind of liking something like this. It's magical, it's a why choose, it's got some of the same types of characters, so perhaps this would be something that would hit with folks that like that series. With Hitched, I think if you like Never Let Go and that kind of style, more thriller-ish version of Lauren Beale's work, then this is going to be one that hits. I think this kind of got a broad audience, and I think that that's partially what contributed to the low rating, is because you have a lot of people testing out dark romance that maybe wouldn't have ventured into this genre. And with 8 Days of Salvation, I mean, there is accidental people eating, so like, I think we can all understand why it's rated low. That said, I am not going to let low ratings scare me off, because you know what else has a low rating? Frost by Eliza James, and you best believe I'm going to be reading that book for sure. With all that, I hope my pain was entertaining to you. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Have you read like low rated books like this before? What did you think of them? Have you read these books? I want to talk about all the things in the comments. I would love to hear from you all. And don't forget to like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want more content from me, and I really hope that I see you on my next video. Bye-bye!